Welcome here. And my name is Molly Hermes. I'm the co-leader of Commit to Democracy. We are an organization that's based in Contra Costa, California. We phone bank, we postcard, we text, we canvas. However, we also have 48 postcard hubs around the country. So you can find a postcard hub near you, whether you're in Virginia or New York City or Santa Barbara, whether you're in Fresno, California. If you want to open a postcard hub, just let us know. We're opening them all the time. I also want to say that as an all volunteer community organization, we like to train people and use and put on democracy workshops, just like we're doing today. And we are so lucky that Elizabeth agreed to come and do 2 workshops for us. But before I introduce Elizabeth, I do want to give a shout out to our awesome team that made this happen. So first, I'd like to thank Graham for being our Zoom host, Charlie, Brad, and Steve for being Zoom support and chat support. And I would like to give a special, special thank you to our trainer extraordinaire and producer of this event. Her name is Carol Blaney. She is an awesome leader for both us at Commit to Democracy and for Swing Left in Southern California. And we are so grateful to have her working on this team. If you have a political home already and you're doing work with that political home, that is awesome. We hope that what you learn here today will help you continue doing that work. However, if you don't have a political home, or if you're curious about phone banking and are kind of scared to do it, feel free to start with us. We teach learning to phone bank every Tuesday, and we also phone bank on Monday and Wednesday, and we have a very supportive phone banking community. So if you want to wade into phone banking and you're a little unsure, feel free to do it with us, and we're going to throw some links in the chat. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to bring up to the stage Elizabeth Schur, and I'm going to introduce her before we do that. So it's my pleasure to introduce Elizabeth today, who is using her keen intellect, empathy, and capacity for listening to strengthen our democracy one conversation at a time. Her book, The Joy of Talking Politics with Strangers, is a labor of love based on years of experience, phone banking, canvassing, and ballot curing with thousands of voters in California's Central Valley and beyond. Elizabeth has trained more than 4,000 volunteers nationally, and she keeps showing up and doing more and more trainings. So I'm sure that number will grow over this next year. She does this by teaching workshops focused on phone banking and canvassing for introverts and friends, engaging people who say they don't vote, and using Spanish to connect with voters. Thank you so much for your tireless efforts, Elizabeth, and a very warm welcome. And I'm going to turn floor over to you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Molly. And thank you to all of you who are here today. It is such an honor to be in community with all of you. As Molly mentioned, since 2017, I've been talking with voters in person and on the phone, and I am so excited to share some of the things that have helped me in those conversations with you today. But before we get started, I would like to take just a moment to invite all of you to take a breath, to acknowledge how much is going on in our country and our world right now. The war in the Middle East, mass incarceration of immigrants, the government's killing of innocent civilians, the Epstein files. There's so much going on right now. And I'd like to just take a moment together to acknowledge all of that and also to reconnect with why the work that all of you are doing is so very important. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today and for channeling your energy into doing something to address these huge challenges before us. So just a few quick housekeeping items. Because this is such a large group, we're going to ask you to please keep yourself muted most of the time. We will give you a chance to talk in smaller groups later in this workshop, and there will be time for questions at the end. And again, if you haven't had a chance to print out this handout that we sent you in advance, now would be a great time to do that. If you don't have a printer, if you can open the file on your computer so you can refer to it later, that would be really helpful. We will be referring to this handout during the training, and it'll be useful for the practice session. So just a quick overview of today. First, I'm going to discuss why talking with voters by phone or in person is so important and so effective. Then I'm going to share some tips for getting through that first minute of a conversation and what comes right after that. And then we're going to demonstrate a few interactions, give you a chance to practice, and wrap up. Afterwards, we hope that some of you can stick around for an optional question and answer period. So I'd like to just take a quick poll here. I'm wondering if you could just raise your hand if you've ever written postcards or letters to voters. Great. All right, thank you. You can put your hands down. Can you raise your hand if you've ever phone banked or canvassed? All right, fabulous, wonderful. And then if you could put your hands down, and just one more question. If you have not done much phone banking or canvassing yet, but you might be willing to give it a try, could you please raise your hand? Great, wonderful, fantastic. So no matter what your level of experience, I hope that you will get something out of this training. So just a little brief intro about me. Before 2016, I definitely voted in every election, and I phone banked maybe every 4 years, but mostly I took democracy for granted, and I assumed that other people would be knocking on doors and making calls. I'm not sure who I thought these other people were, like elves or idealistic college students, but I figured that they would take care of it. But when Trump was elected, I realized I really needed to do more. I was too scared to canvass at first, so I got my start in phone banking. And eventually, I mustered the courage to canvass in California's Central Valley and in Virginia. So when I'm phone banking, or it can be easy to get discouraged if I'm getting disconnected numbers or voicemails, the occasional person hanging up on me. And if I'm canvassing, it can be hard when nobody's home. But every hour, I might have one or two conversations that make it all worthwhile. In November 2020, I was calling Philadelphia and I spoke with a 19-year-old I'll call Karina. She was voting for the first time ever and she didn't know how the process worked. I looked up her polling place and she said it was just a couple blocks from her house. I asked her when she could vote on election day, and she said she'd try to go first thing in the morning. I also reminded her that she should bring her ID to the polls. When I asked her what her most important issues were as a voter, she said police reform and gun control. She even said that she would be interested in serving as a poll worker, so I texted her some information from the county recorder's office about that. Even if it was too late to sign up for this year, she'd have it for next time. And as we were wrapping up, I thanked her for talking with me and for being a voter. And she said, actually, I'm really glad you called. My parents are out of town right now, and I didn't know who I could ask about voting since I've never done it before. So I'm glad I got to talk with you. It felt so great to provide something useful to a first time voter in a swing state. As you know, Biden narrowly won Pennsylvania that year with a margin of about 2% of the votes cast in that state. I was just curious, so I called Karina back on election day just to see if she had any questions and whether she had made it to the polls. And she told me, "Oh, I already voted this morning. There wasn't a line and it was pretty easy." I asked her how it felt to vote for the very first time, and she said, "I wanted to start crying because it felt so important." Karina was obviously excited about becoming a voter, and she just needed a little help to navigate the logistics. That's the kind of service that we can provide with a back and forth conversation that's a lot harder to do with one way forms of communication like letters or postcards. So, one of the biggest challenges with canvassing and phone banking is getting through that first minute of a conversation. I found this especially challenging with phone banking when it's so easy for a stranger to just hang up the phone. It's a delicate moment, that period when they have the least investment in the conversation, and I haven't yet had a chance to earn their respect or to pique their interest. I don't have a foolproof method. Many people still hang up on me or they don't want to talk. That doesn't feel great, but it's not personal. But I have developed a few approaches that seem to keep more people in the conversation. I will just mention that some of these suggestions may be a bit different from phone bank and Canvas scripts that you've seen. It's important to pay attention to the asks of the scripts. like assessing the voters' level of support of a candidate or finding out whether they voted already. However, sometimes it pays to take the scenic route when sussing out the answers to these questions. This often involves a more conversational approach that emphasizes listening and talking with voters rather than talking at voters with a fast paced sales pitch with lots of talking points. So, the first thing I try to do is I try to channel respectful warmth right from the get go. So much of what I'm trying to communicate right at the beginning is conveyed through my tone of voice as much as my words. I try to sound pleased and enthusiastic that they've picked up the call. And I strive for a tone that's respectful, friendly, and upbeat without being pushy. Even though they can't see me, I try to smile and may even use my hands to express delight or enthusiasm. That energy comes through over the phone line if you're phone banking. The second thing is I try to rehearse my opening lines. These obviously will depend on who you're calling for and what the ask is. I make sure to let them know I'm a volunteer. I am not getting paid. And I try to mention the candidate's name as many times as I can. As an example, I'll use Adam Gray, the Democratic candidate for California's Congressional District 13 in the Modesto area. So, for example, I might say, "Hi, my name is Elizabeth Chur, and I'm a volunteer with Adam Gray, who's running for Congress. This is just a 2-minute check in about this year's election. I'm wondering, what, if anything, have you heard about Adam Gray?" Or I might say, "Hi, my name is Elizabeth Chur, and I'm a volunteer with Adam Gray, who's running for Congress. He's asked us to reach out to every voter in the community to ask if you could change 2 or 3 things about the country, what would they be?" So, third, after I introduce myself, if people are grumpy or irritated, I try to acknowledge their concerns and to empathize with them. I try to break that telemarketer mode by surprising them with sincerity. So, for example, if they say, "I hate getting these calls," I might say, "I hear you. I actually hate making these calls myself. I'm normally really shy, but I'm so worried about what's happening in our country right now that I'm going outside my comfort zone to talk with my fellow citizens." Or if they say, "You're the third person who's called this week," I might say, "I'm so sorry to bother you again, but I didn't get to hear what you told the other people about Adam Gray. I'm so curious. What, if anything, have you heard about him?" Or if they say, "My vote is private. I don't discuss that with strangers," I might say, "Well, I totally respect that. Setting aside the specific candidates in this race, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to talk about some of the issues that are most important to you." Sometimes people don't feel comfortable coming right out and declaring how they're voting, but by hearing their thoughts about what's top of mind, you can get an idea of which candidate they might support. If they're a bit grumpy or spicy with you, it may be tempting to respond in kind. That's understandable, but try to avoid that temptation. Stay calm and respectful. Of course, if they're abusive or they use foul language, just hang up or walk away. You don't ever have to put up with that kind of behavior. But if they're just a little irritated, try to put yourself in their shoes. They might be running late to work or dealing with a sick family member or just tired of all the hard things happening in the world. Staying as calm and friendly as you can may encourage a more positive response from them. But I know it definitely makes me feel better about that interaction, however it unfolds. So let's say that they're willing to continue the conversation for a few minutes. What comes next? I like to share 3 magic phrases that help me start a conversation and keep it going. The first one is, "If you could change 2 or 3 things about the country, what would they be?" If they draw a blank or can't think of anything, I might ask it another way. "Oh, well, what keeps you up at night?" Or even, "If you were in an elevator with the president for 2 minutes, what would you tell him?" This helps me find out what's most important to the voter. The second magic phrase is, "Wow, that sounds really hard," or "That sounds really sad. That sounds really scary." This helps to demonstrate genuine empathy and can bring the conversation down from the head to the heart. I try to take a moment to acknowledge the emotional weight of what someone might share with me. That helps to move the conversation from transactional to relational. and it encourages them to keep talking. They're not asking me to fix their problem. Instead, I can listen and be a fellow human being who's witnessing their experience. That's a gift that's truly needed in these divisive times. The third magic phrase is interesting. Tell me more about that. Even if I totally disagree with someone, I try to bring my curiosity to the conversation. Can I view the voter like an anthropologist would? Rather than just jumping into my own opinions or ideas, I can use friendly, non judgmental curiosity to learn more about their priorities and what makes them tick. The beauty of these phrases is that they're nonpartisan and they work in almost any situation with any voter. So after I say any of these, I count to 10 silently in my head. Many times people feel like they have to fill the silence. And if you wait for them to say something, they'll often start talking. So to help demonstrate this, I'm wondering if someone from the audience who has a copy of the handout with them would be willing to volunteer to role play with me. I can be the phone banker and you can be the voter. If you could just use the raise hand feature to help us find you in this big group, that would be great. Oh, Meg. Okay, fabulous. Wonderful. Hi, Meg. It's nice to meet you. And are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so do you have this handout available? Great. Wonderful. So I'm going to just give you a call and we're going to take it from there. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi. May I speak with Meg, please?
You are?
Hi, Meg. My name is Elizabeth Chur, and I'm a volunteer with Adam Gray, who's running for Congress. This is just a 2-minute check-in about this year's elections.
I'm really busy right now.
Oh, I understand. I'll make this quick. I just want to make sure you have the information you need about this year's elections.
I hate getting these calls.
Oh, I hear you. I actually hate making these calls myself. I'm so shy, but I'm worried about what's happening in our country, and that is motivating me to go outside my comfort zone to talk to my fellow citizens.
You're the third person who's called this week about that.
Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you again, but I didn't get to hear what you told those other people about Adam Gray. I'm really curious. What, if anything, have you heard about him?
Well, they say he's a great candidate.
Oh, what have you heard? Tell me more.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to share some things with him, but first of all, I'd really be curious. Part of the reason I'm calling today is Adam Gray's campaign's asked us to reach out to every voter in the community to ask if you could change 2 or 3 things about our country, what would they be?
Get rid of Trump.
Mhm.
Stop ICE. And
Aha.
and get out of the war.
Yeah. Tell me more about why those are your most important priorities. Like, what is it about those that are really motivating?
Well, Trump is just being whipped around by all the other people, all these other interests, not standing his ground on anything. Does all he wants is more money for himself.
Aha.
So that's not helping the country. ICE has wreaked havoc in all the neighborhoods.
Yes.
And even I, as a white person, white woman, I've got a little fear too. I could be swept up because I said no to something. And what's the third thing I said? Oh, the war. The war is unwinnable. We need to just get out of there.
Right. So it sounds like you're not a huge fan of Trump, it sounds like.
Right. You can say that.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And, I have to say that that's part of the reason I'm calling today is, I think Adam Gray is in agreement with you on a lot of those things. And really our midterm elections this coming fall are going to be our best opportunity to slow Trump's agenda down. Um,
Yeah,
anyway,
if we have elections in the fall.
right. Well, you know, Trump says a lot of things, but it is in our Constitution that the states run the election, and he says a lot of things, but I think he's counting on people just rolling over and feeling like either it's not worth it or that it's not going to count. But really, I think our voice as the American people in our elections is really, really powerful. And even though he makes a lot of noise, he can't override all of that with all of us standing together to make our voices heard. I'm wondering what you think of that.
That would be good if it made a difference. But he's been backed into a corner, and he just goes out and lashes out against something else and starts something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to just pause this here. So since, we are just trying to show how you might get through the first few minutes of a conversation. Thank you so much, Meg. I really appreciate your participation in that. And I'm just wondering if we could have a couple other volunteers who might be willing to participate. And this time, the two of you can be the phone banker and voter together. And if you would be willing to use the raise hand feature so we can find you in this big crowd, that would be fabulous. Okay, I'm seeing Mary Corley, and then is someone willing to buddy up with her? And I can stand on the sidelines and give you any suggestions. Lynn. Let's see. And do the two of you happen to have this handout handy available? Great, wonderful. And Lynn, are you able to show your video if possible?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, just a sec.
great. And while
I'm
you're
upside down. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. That's
well,
weird.
maybe it matches our world right now.
Sorry, everybody. I don't know. Let me see if I can. I'll try to fix it.
Okay.
Keep going.
While we were doing that, I also just want to invite folks in the audience as you're watching this role play that we're about to do. If there's anything that you observe in the conversation that you think is helpful for encouraging the voter to stay on the line, to maybe open up a little bit, whether it's a tone of voice, a phrase, or pausing to listen or something else. If you could just put that in the chat, that would be really great. And so let's see. Mary, would you be willing to play the volunteer, the phone banker?
Sure.
Okay, and then Lynn, you can be the voter. And Lynn, as the voter, you're like a little bit irritated, but if Mary seems to demonstrate respect, you are willing to give her a chance, but maybe make her work for that a little bit. And I'm thinking it's a little bit distracting because you're upside down. Maybe you could.
I know. I'm trying to figure it out.
We can just pretend that we're phone banking so we can't see your face, but we can definitely hear your voice. So if you want to cut your video, that would, I think, be fine.
Okay, hold on.
You're
Sorry.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, fabulous. All right, so Mary, are you ready? And
Sure.
okay. And if I see any opportunities to try something different, is it okay if I pause the conversation?
Please do, and
Okay.
please, yes, please
Okay.
interrupt anytime.
Okay, great. Well, take it away.
Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hello, may I speak with Lynn?
Who's this, please?
This is Mary Corley. I'm calling from the Adam Gray campaign. I'm a volunteer with the Adam Gray campaign.
Oh, I'm in the middle of cooking dinner right now. I don't think I can talk.
I understand, Lynn. I'll make this quick. I just want to make sure you have the information you need about this year's election.
Well, I've done a little research already, so I think I'm okay.
Oh, great. Do you mind me asking, can you tell me what it is that is driving you in this campaign to vote?
Oh, wow. Well, I think the one issue that I care most about is to get money out of politics.
Mm.
I just can't stand seeing these big corporations coming in and supporting candidates that I don't like.
Oh, that's good to hear. Our candidate, Adam Gray, supports your efforts, your interests. I'm happy to hear that.
Can I just pause for one
Please,
second?
please,
So
please.
you're doing such an awesome job, both of you. So this could be an opportunity. She's floated some information out there. If someone has a real passion about something, you can ask, tell me more about that. Because if you can kind of get them to disclose even more, it kind of I think deepens their investment in this conversation, and then she
Ah,
might yield some more things. So could we rewind, maybe Lynn, when you're saying, tell
sure.
her again, Lynn, you tell her your number one issue about the money in politics, and we can kind of rewind about 15
Okay.
seconds of the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I really feel strongly we need to get money out of politics to save democracy.
That's very interesting to hear, Lynn. Can you tell me more about your feelings around that?
Well, for example, today we're having a primary election in Illinois, and one candidate got 40,000, no, $40 million, no, $30 million from special interests. And I'm afraid that that person's going to win and then vote the way the special interests want instead of what the people need.
Sure. That, thank you for that. I will be sure to take that back to the campaign to convey that to the candidate.
Okay.
Can
Should I
I
wrap up?
jump in?
Yeah.
I think so. I think you can like draw even
What's
a little bit more. That's so great. So when she says that, when she says, the voter can, or the candidate was going to represent special interests rather than the people,
Yeah.
maybe you can follow that thread a little bit further. Well, if a candidate who really represented the people were elected, what would they fight for? You know what I mean? So you can kind of follow her lead a little bit more and try to milk that she's kind of left a little tantalizing dangling thread there, and you can pull on it a little bit more and see if
I
she
see.
were in charge, what ideally she would like to see.
I see. Okay. And the goal is to get them to tell you more about what they're invested in
Yeah, because
and
as
what
you're
their interests
kind of
are.
gathering intel about what they care about, and maybe not everybody is as motivated as this voter. Some people a little more kind of laissez-faire,
Yeah.
but the more kind of information you can draw out about a voter and what they specifically care about, that will help you maybe cherry pick a couple talking points down the line, which we're not getting to that part right now, but you're kind of in this information gathering stage. If they've let you sort of figuratively through the front door, they're willing to talk with you for at least a couple minutes. You want to keep them talking. It's
Okay.
it's a wonderful, and you're doing such a fabulous job. But I think
I
if
was
people,
worried about dinner.
yeah, well, you know what? If people need to go, trust me, they
Right.
will go.
She will tell me. All right.
But I
Good.
think sometimes people they say that as a polite way to like shoo you off. But if you're respectful, also if people get to talk about what they care about, many
Right.
people
Right.
love to talk about themselves for a long time.
Right.
So you
Right.
let her worry about dinner, but you meanwhile can
Right.
pull out a little bit more.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Great.
maybe Lynn, can we back up just a little bit when you say, well, this candidate got $40 million and I am afraid,
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah, they're gonna vote for the special interests and not what the people need. I'm really angry about it.
That's good to hear. Lynn, can you tell me more about what the candidate that you would want, what the issues are that he or she would support and pursue?
Well, for one thing, all the cuts of the big, beautiful, ugly bill, restore Medicaid, restore food assistance to hungry families. I mean, I want to see more legislation that's going to help everyday families live a better life.
Great. Those sound like worthy ambitions and the things that many of us want. If you were going to prioritize issues today, Lynn, what would your top priority be?
Well, just as I said, the healthcare number one.
Healthcare.
Healthcare number one. I mean, if they take away the Medicaid from people where I live, then they're going to get sick, and then I'm going to get sick. I'm selfish. And
Right.
then I think food assistance would be very important. I myself, when I was younger, had my family depended on food stamps, and I know what it feels like, to be hungry and need help. So yeah, those are very important to me.
Sure. Lynn, do you know people who rely on food assistance now?
Yeah, I know a couple, yes, matter of
Okay.
fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Medicaid as well?
Well, I don't know anybody exactly, but I know statistically, 2 out of 3 families in the Central Valley of California are going to lose their health care, and that's not
Yeah.
acceptable, especially
Right.
when we're spending so much money on bombing and killing, and doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Right. Okay. So it sounds like um, engaging in wars in this war is not a priority for you. And are there any other issues that you would want the candidate to know about?
Well, as I've said, money out of politics, represent the people, make some changes that people feel, because for too long, I feel that Congress, both Senate and House, has just been biding their time and, making great speeches, but not taking actions that we need. And that's why I think the Democratic Party is losing its favorability even more so than Trump is, which is shocking and unacceptable.
So, what would the successful candidate, what kind of actions would you want to see um, the candidate and Congress take to demonstrate that they are not sitting by and biding their time, but are actually getting things done? What does that look like?
Well, first of all, they've got to take back, in Congress, they've got to take back their right to declare war and stop funding the military, the bombing going on. Stop that, and then bring the funds back to, you know, like I said, healthcare, uh, food assistance, housing assistance, education, make people's lives better. Okay, I can't say that enough.
Okay, I'm going to pause the conversation. You are both doing so great. Thank you so much. And Mary, great job drawing out more. I love the prioritization question just to get a sense. Sometimes I would say maybe what are your top 3 so they don't necessarily have to choose, but and then hopefully one of those will connect with something that the candidate stands for. Like,
Okay.
if I were doing this whole conversation, I would probably connect that with the Medicaid, how those cuts are going to affect people in Adam Gray's district, because like Lynn said, it's affecting a huge portion of the people that live in his district. So fabulous,
Great.
fabulous job, both of you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Mary. That was good.
Wow.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
Thank you,
Great
Lynn.
job. Yeah, great job. So let's see. I just want to take one moment. If people want to put in the chat, I wasn't able to follow all the comments, but if there is anything that Mary was doing that you think helped to draw Lynn out and keep her talking, even though she had dinner cooking on the table, if there's anything that you observed that was helpful, I'd love to see that. And if you had any thoughts, tone of voice, approach, manner. She asked open-ended questions, not yes or no. Yes, that is one of the best ways to keep people talking. Absolutely. She sounded curious. Yes, her pauses were authentic and thoughtful. What is motivating you to vote this time? Fabulous. Yes, this is great. Yeah, she did not sound like a salesperson. She had good listening skills and feedback. I would keep talking to her. Yes. How would you know that you've gotten the win? Is it only to keep them talking? So this is just the how to get past the first few minutes of a conversation. My experience is if you can get them talking, if you can get them to offer what's most important to them, then towards the end of the conversation, then you can pivot at some point and say, thank you so much for talking with me. Could I share a few thoughts or offer you a few pieces of information about Adam Gray? And then you can directly tie things that match what they care about with what are priorities for this campaign. And, it's going to be different for every candidate, you know, like what their specific, I mean, you know, generally I would say Democratic candidates have a lot of shared priorities, but the specifics may vary. So, but I think it's really important, and often I think sometimes people try to jump too quickly to the end of trying to make the sale, close the deal before they even find out what is most important to the voter. So this sort of recon, like intel gathering, is super important, and it also really demonstrates to the voter, I think, that you're not just there to shove information down their throat, but you're really, really curious to hear what they care about. And you know, people have a real hunger to be heard these days. I feel like there's a lot of talking and a lot less listening, and so by listening, I think that can open a lot of doors to connecting with voters and helping them also connect, which we will talk about a little bit more next week. People, especially people who maybe rarely or never vote, these skill sets are going to be very important for engaging that very large portion of the electorate. It's more than a third of eligible voters. So we'll be talking more about that next week. Thank you, Mary and Lynn, for doing such a great job at demonstrating how a conversation can unfold. It's really fabulous. So now the best way to get better at navigating the first few minutes of a conversation is to practice. So now we would like to give all of you a chance to try this out. And in a moment, we're going to send you off in small groups of 2 to 3 people to practice for about 20 minutes. So I know some of you may not love role playing, or you might get nervous even thinking about talking politics with strangers, even in kind of a role play situation. I hear you. However, I would like to encourage you to stay with us. And in past survey feedback, many people say this next part is the most valuable part of the training, where they really get to build their skills. It's a little bit like learning how to swim. You can watch a lot of YouTube videos, but eventually you need to get in the water. And it's really great to be able to practice in a friendly, supportive environment so that you'll feel more prepared to talk with real voters. So in your small groups, please take turns in the role of volunteer, voter, and if you have a third person, observer. And please debrief and switch roles every 6 minutes. The main goal is getting through the first minute of the conversation and then starting to find out what's most important to the voter, like you saw demonstrated in those 2 role plays that we just did. And to bring friendly, non-judgmental curiosity to the conversation. These conversations will unfold much like the ones that you just saw demonstrated. And on your handout, which hopefully you have, we have listed some starting lines for the volunteer and for the voter. And after the volunteer introduces themselves, the voter expresses some hesitation or reluctance by using one or more of those responses in the left-hand column, and then the volunteer can try out some phrases like the one suggested in the right-hand column about how you might be able to address those kind of concerns or less than enthusiastic initial responses from the voter. And if, as the voter, you sense that that volunteer is respectful and genuinely interested in your thoughts, don't be too hard on them. Eventually, you can say that you're willing to talk for maybe a couple minutes, and then that will give the volunteer practice listening and using the 3 magic phrases. And again, for this particular practice session, since they're relatively brief, there's no need to close the deal or to sell the voter on Adam Gray. So you don't need to know about his specific policy positions or background. You're just trying to establish a good connection, get through that first minute, and then start to find out what's most important to the voter. And if you happen to not have the handout, don't worry, just practice the conversations based on the demos that you just saw, which is kind of like real life and actual phone banking and canvassing. There's always an element of improv there. And, you know, when in doubt, you can always say, tell me more about that. That works in almost every situation. And if you take nothing else away from this training, I hope that you will put that in your back pocket, that you can always say, tell me more about that. We will have a little time to debrief when we all come back. And if you happen to end up by yourself in a breakout room, or you have any technical issues, just come back to this main room and we'll help you out. Welcome back, everybody. Some people are just finishing up their conversations, but um, I hope that I've got to listen in on some wonderful conversations taking place, and it's really inspiring to see what great listening is happening out there. All right, I think most of us are back. So just like to take a couple minutes to debrief those practice sessions. I'm wondering if you could put in the chat what went well, or what's one thing that you learned. If you could just share with us in the chat. Love to hear what your experiences were. Anything that went well or something that you learned. You got reminded not to ask yes or no questions. Listening is key. They can feel our energy, that is for sure. It was good to get experience asking the voter what they're concerned about and to listen to them. Genuine curiosity, just practicing is helpful. The callers were enthusiastic. I heard, I'll take that back to the candidate. Yes, that can be very powerful. Make it about them. A great ending. I enjoyed talking with you today, and she meant it. Yeah, people learned a lot by being an observer. It's really important to be listened, to be curious. Um, Tell me more. That's a great point. What else would you like to share? Lots of sincerity. They seemed willing to continue speaking after seeing someone wanted to hear what they're concerned about. Um, I feel really listened to as a voter. Yeah, a question about when should we get to the ask. Maybe we can address that in the Q&A at the end. Somebody had a MAGA voter. Yes, that can be challenging. Good job on handling that well. Great, wonderful. Um, Fantastic. So now I'd like to invite people, if you want to put in the chat, what was challenging or any places that you got stuck? Yeah. Um, Anything that you found difficult or challenging not knowing about the candidate, right? Um, uh, let's see. Oh, your mind went blank. Yes, that's happened to me many times. Sometimes tell me more is like my fallback. How to conclude the conversation. Yes. Feel like I'm stumbling over my words. That is totally normal. I do that all the time. And I really feel like people often cut me a lot of slack, if I'm really listening to them. Challenging to come up with open-ended questions. Yes. I think sometimes practice helps me. The more I do it, the more they can come to me a little easier. Thought this is going to be more about an inquiry and not about a candidate. Yeah, I think we are encouraging people to be inquiring about the voters' priorities, and eventually then, if you were doing a real conversation, you could pivot to sharing some things about a candidate that they brought up. We do not have a cheat sheet to talk about candidate, but this is just for fun. Yes, I think the idea is that it's a little bit like a sandwich. You have different fillings, different candidates that you are phone banking and canvassing for. But we just kind of want, since this is like an intro class, to just get people comfortable with talking with strangers and how to start a conversation. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We can continue this discussion at the end of the workshop. I really appreciate all your participation. So, yeah, we just have a few more things, and I do want to share one last story with you before we wrap up the formal part of the training. But just first, a few housekeeping items. We would love your feedback on today's workshop, and we're going to be dropping a link into the chat for a 2-minute survey. It's anonymous, so please be frank. There is one more workshop in this series. Everyone's welcome to attend, even if they couldn't come to this one. So please tell your friends. It will be next Tuesday, a week from today, March 24th at the same time. And workshop two will focus on how to make I don't vote the start, not the end of a conversation with a voter. For more resources, videos, and information about my book, The Joy of Talking Politics with Strangers, you can visit my website, elizabethcher.com, and we'll drop a link to that in the chat as well. And to find out about other workshops and talks I'm giving, you can join my Substack mailing list. There's a link in the chat, and I will be giving a workshop in April that's focused especially on talking with voters in Virginia about the upcoming special election on redistricting. So if you want to find out more details, please sign up for my Substack. I also want to give a huge round of applause to the wonderful team who made today's workshop possible, including Molly Hermes, Linda Carmen, Graham Huey, Brad Waite, Charlie Guidry, and everyone at Commit to Democracy. And I want to give a special shout out to Carol Blaney, who has spent dozens and dozens of hours coordinating everything behind the scenes and helping today run so smoothly. I have learned so much from Carol on so many levels. So thank you, Carol, and the entire Dream Team for all of your work in making this possible. And, I just want to remind you that the best way to get better at having conversations with voters is to practice. And in a minute, we'll share some opportunities for you to put your new skills to use with real voters. But first, I would just love to know, and maybe I don't know if it's possible to go to gallery view for just one more minute. I'd love to know if you're willing to commit to phone banking or canvassing in the next month, at least once. Could you please raise your physical or your virtual hand? Wow, look at all these hands up there. Look at all these great conversations that are going to happen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. This is so exciting. I really believe that together we do have the power to protect and rebuild our democracy one conversation at a time. And so before we close, I just want to share one more story with you. A few years ago, I was calling California voters to urge them to vote against recalling our Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom. And I reached Marilyn, a voter in the Central Valley, who was really irritated when she found out why I was calling. And she said, "Oh, I don't have time to talk with you. Somebody else just called me about this yesterday." And she was really exasperated. And my stomach dropped about 6 inches, but I responded, "Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you again, but I didn't get to hear your response. I'm so curious, what did you tell the other person about your thoughts about the recall?" Leading with my genuine curiosity was apparently effective, and Marilyn indicated that she was a strong Democrat. And although she wouldn't come out and say it, she implied that she was going to vote against the recall. Then she asked me where I was calling from, and I always tell the truth in those situations, so I said I lived in San Francisco, and she said suspiciously, "That can't be true. The caller ID was a Los Angeles number." Well, I explained how auto dialers work and that I really did live in San Francisco, and she still seemed skeptical. So I said, "I've spent a few weekends in your city talking with voters, and I really liked it. I met some friendly people and had good conversations." And I paused for a moment, but she still didn't seem very impressed. And then I said, "I really hope to go back to your city. And I'm wondering, do you have any restaurant recommendations for me when I do? It's always nice to hear where people in the community like to eat." And without hesitation, she said Superior Dairy, which is a family-run business that's known for its gigantic scoops of ice cream. And I said, "Well, what's your favorite flavor there?" And she said, without skipping a beat, chocolate. And then we laughed. If you can get people talking about their favorite food, you have made a connection. And although she wouldn't come right out and tell me how she planned to vote, by staying calm, not snapping back when she expressed irritation at my call, and using friendly curiosity, I was able to learn that she was a strong Democrat. That and the fact that we were laughing by the end of the conversation told me this was probably a vote in our favor. This is what being friendly, respectful, and gently persistent can help me accomplish when talking with voters. And as you probably remember, we defeated that recall attempt. Elections are often won or lost by close margins. Remember that Adam Gray won by just 187 votes out of over 210,000 votes cast in 2024. So if you only have one or two good conversations in a whole phone bank or canvassing shift, that is a victory. And that's how we're going to retake the House this fall, one vote at a time. So thank you to each and every one of you for participating today and for everything that you are already doing. And now I'm going to turn it back to Molly, who has some very important things to share with you before the Q&A.
Hi, everybody. I'm Molly. I'm the co-leader of Commit to Democracy, along with my partner, Linda Carmen. I want to say a big thank you to Elizabeth Scher for coming today and sharing her expertise on how to talk with voters. I can say that after her workshops with us last year, we completely revamped all of our phone banks and our phone bank training and incorporated these ideas. And I've got to say, we have been making a bigger difference because of that. So I want to thank her for that. I also want to say again, thank you to everybody for coming and for all the groups that have joined us today. We are proud that we can do democracy workshops to support the larger community across the country. I also want to do I just want to say that if you need to learn to phone bank in a very supportive environment, if you need to, just kind of wade in, it would be, we do offer for the community a workshop called Learning to Phone Bank. It doesn't matter to us where you phone bank. We just want you to learn how to do it and learn how to use Scale to Win and then go do it, either with us or another group. So we're putting that link in the chat. If you already have a political home, that is awesome. Please keep working with your political home. If you do not have a political home and need one, we are here for you. You can always join us at Commit to Democracy, and we put our website in the chat. I am going to now say thank you, everybody, for coming. I am going to say that we are going to do a Q&A and an informal chat with Elizabeth. So if you'd like to stay and ask your questions and chat with Elizabeth, we are going to do that from now until 5:30 Pacific time. If you do need to drop off, that's fine. We are just so glad that you were here today. So now I'm going to open it